this tour we're using cabinets made by a company, as you can see, Third Power. Lenny came to me and just asked if anybody made Triumph cabinets, and I happened to see on the web that this guy in Nashville did. So we got to talking and actually got a really good rapport, and I told him what I do with our cabinets, because I always have our cabinets custom made to look like Voxes or Marshalls or something else. They're not actually made by that company. We custom make them ourselves because we're trying to keep the sound true, but we're trying to give a look for the stage. So what the last tour that we did, we had Fender Showman cabinets, which were custom made because they're subdivided internally. So a Twin is just 2 speakers, a Tweed Deluxe is just 1 single speaker, but they're ported as a single speaker, but the cabinet looks like a full 412 giant Showman. So this year, kind of the same concept, but they're not subdivided internally. They're individually made for a specific reason. So when I called Third Power, they really only made one type of cabinet, and they actually custom designed 3 different cabinets for us for our application. So starting with their standard design, they have basically their standard 312 version, which is basically a Marshall cabinet with 3 speakers. The benefit of their design is basically there's no parallel wall, so what you get is more of a focus sound or a broader spread of sound, so you don't have dead spots as you're walking across the stage. Really works well. The ohmage thing is a little interesting, but we talked about it, and actually when I got speakers from Paul, I had actually ordered the wrong ohmage, and so I was bringing everything down to almost 2 ohms, so I had to rethink my math a bit and reorder. But starting with his main Marshall, as we went back with the amps, that's feeding this cabinet right here, which, as you can see, is G12Ms, and they're the historic G12Ms. Running at 16 ohms, which brings it down to 6.5 ohmage, if I remember right, just because being 3 speakers. So I have the Marshall set to 8 ohms. It's a variance because basically, I guess the way ohmage works, as you're playing different notes, the actual ohmage changes.
It does, yeah. So you never have a constant impedance.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And if I remember right, Celestion back in the day made 15 ohm speakers, so that was even an odd number. So there's some science behind it that's a little above my head, but
me too.
I get them, I wire them, I make it work. The next cabinet is for the Twin. And this one actually is using 3 JBL 120Ds. And we kind of like the JBL sound for that particular, just because they're probably the cleanest, loudest speaker we can get, other than older Altex or so. But there's more recone kits for them, so I try to find old Beta baskets and use the recone kits and take those out on tour.
So I guess that's for the spanky sounds that you're looking for.
It's just for a cleaner sound, very little breakup. So it's a different thing than what the Celestions are doing. Celestions are more of a natural breakup sound and different characteristics. They actually do have cleaner speakers as well, which I'm actually experimenting with. I just got some 65 watt Celestions, which are actually coming very close. So we may switch out altogether just because they're made and I can get them readily, where the JBLs are really kind of hard and I have to, keep a stockpile of them.
Sure.
The next cabinet that we'll use is the single 12s. Now these cabinets were specifically designed just for us because he didn't make a single 12 version, and being that the cabinets are so large, a single 12 with that much space would start getting a lot of bass return and a little weirdness. So they actually made a second cabinet within a cabinet that's actually smaller, so it's a smaller compartment, and as well as made the ability to make them open back or close back. I tend to like the close back better just because I get more focus out front. But if we're in, say, a smaller club, I can open them up and give them more of what a Tweed sounds like.
Sure,
so the Tweed Deluxe is going for the gold Celestion that I mentioned earlier, and the divided by 13 is feeding the vintage 30. So you basically have your Tweed Deluxe divided by 13, your Marshall, and your Twin reverb. And then this one is just a spare. This one's a dummy cabinet because it goes way up high and I can't lift one with speakers. And then the last one that's been designed for us are bass cabinets. He'd never made bass cabinets, so he had to do the math again, figure out porting and 1x15 and the type of baffle and the type of speaker we use. And again, we use older 140E JBLs. Again, a speaker that doesn't collapse, it's just very clean. And again, I'm experimenting with some PA speakers that Celestion makes that I'm actually starting to find I'm really happy with. So we might be swapping that out. I'm using them on Craig's side right now, and on Gail's side I'm still using the JBLs, but we're going back and forth between them. And that's our speaker cabinets on stage.